ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. Today we will start uh, our discussion on verse number 38 onwards of chapter 2. Just to give a small little background, in chapter 2, verse number 2 and 3, Krishna gave advice to Arjuna as a friend, and he used very harsh words there. He even told him that he was kaya, he was napunsak, that kind of language he used. Then from verse number 11 to 30, he expounded the principles of Sankhya. Sankhya is one of the finest explanation of this existence. So he expounded those high principles of existence of this cosmos from verse number 11 to 30. And then from 30 to 37, he talked about dharma, that even as Kshatriya, what is your dharma and what is your duty. So that is how he continued on that. Now verse number 38 is a verse which actually you will find that verse reverberating in so many of its chapters. Now this is what we call Samatva Buddhi. Samatva Buddhi is basically to be equanimous in all kinds of situations. So this is where this verse number 38 starts. This applies to Sankhya, but this will also apply to Karma Yoga. This will also apply to other synthesis which Krishna is presenting in this great book, Bhagavad Gita. So verse number 38, सुख दुखे समय कृत्वा लाभो लाभो जया जयो ततो युद्धाय युजस्व नैन पाप मवाफशि. जय पराजय लाभ हानि और दुख सुख को समान समझकर उसके बाद युद्ध करने को तैयार हो जा. इस प्रकार युद्ध करने से तेरे को पाप नहीं लगेगा. Now here he is talking about samatva buddhi, that you should be equanimous whether you win, whether you lose, whether you acquire fame, whether you acquire ignominy, doesn't matter. So this is a fundamental principle which applies to all walks of life. Now, if we analyze our daily life, we will feel that most of the distress or pain or disappointment which we face on day-to-day basis are all because of expectations. We have expectation that this friend of mine will do this thing for me. My son will do this thing for me. My son will obey my instructions. Your brother will help you in this way. Your neighbor is expected to do that. So we have a what you call a large matrix of expectations from different relationships which we have. We have multiple relationships in our world, and from all those relationships we have some expectations, and because of those expectations we get into distress, disappointment, sometimes in anger, because all the time those expectations are not fulfilled and cannot be fulfilled. So long as we have those expectations and we are tied to those expectations, our temperament, our behavior will not be stable. This is what he's saying here. So basically, the stillness of mind, when you are not distressed, you are not angry, you are not disappointed, you are not in a state of indecisiveness. That is possible only when you give up all the expectations. And that is where he says that if you are some samatva buddhi, you are some in दुख सुख दोनों समान है, हानि लाभ दोनों समान है, जय पराजय दोनों समान है, तो फिर ये आपको कहीं भी परेशानी नहीं देगा, and you will not get into any variety of sins. So this is a very fundamental thought which Krishna will keep expounding on in so many ways, in so many verses further down. So this is where it begins. And then the verse number 39, हे पार्थ, यह बुद्धि तेरे लिए ज्ञान योग के विषय में कही गई है, और अब तू इसको कर्म योग के विषय में सुन। जिस बुद्धि से युक्त हुआ तू कर्म के बंधन को भली भांति त्याग देगा, वह सर्वथा नष्ट कर डालेगा। तो इसमें नाउ ही इज गोइंग टू अनदर पाथ। नाउ दिस इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ गीता। Gita is not expounding on one particular philosophy. He has talked about Sankhya, he has talked about Dharma, he has talked about some Samatva Buddhi, and now he says that I will like to expound, your duty in this war in the context of Karma Yoga. So he now comes to the Karma Yoga, because Sankhya Yoga basically makes people inactive. Sankhya says that you are already divine. You should just understand that divinity inside yourself. You are immortal. The soul is immortal. The body is mortal. The body is controlled by the nature, Prakriti. Purus is the divine, which is, completely eternal and imperishable. Codes of nature, they keep influencing your behavior. So Sankhya says once you understand all this, then you will automatically merge with the divine. You will acquire unity with the divine. But it is not that easy. Just listening to the people or reading certain text does not enable us to understand this deeply. It enables very, very few people, one in millions, is able to actually realize this kind of knowledge in their own heart and in their own behavior. Because once you realize this, the true knowledge of Sankhya, then for you the whole world is one single entity. There is no distinction between anything. Everything is divine. Whether it's a tree or a fish or a dog or a human being or a friend or a son or a mother or father, they are all equal. They are all part of the same divinity, like the vast open space which is undivided. So that is the Sankhya philosophy, which is easy to talk, easy to explain, but not easy to realize. And it does not ask you to do certain things, and therefore people become indolent. They feel that I already know it, and then they don't act. So that is the reason he is now coming to the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is associated with our daily life, how we act every day, how we perform our activities, and therefore he is now linking this philosophy to our daily routine, our daily thinking and daily process of work. So this is where he is coming here, that now he is telling this in the context of Karma Yoga. So verse number 40. Now 40 is very interesting verse. Let me first read it out. इस कर्म योग में आरंभ का अर्थात बीज का नाश नहीं है, और उल्टा फल रूप दोष भी नहीं है, बल्कि इस कर्म योग रूप धर्म का थोड़ा सा भी साधन करने से जन्म मृत्यु रूप महान भय से रक्षा कर देता है. Now there are two Sanskrit words here which are very fascinating, which we should understand. One is Trayate Mahto Bhayat. That is the last part of this verse. Trayate Mahto Bhayat. And the second part of the first line is Pratyavayo na vidyate. Now he says that even if you act slightly on the path of karma, and karma linked with samatva buddhi, if the karma is linked with samatva buddhi, and if you act slightly on that path, you will be able to overcome all the fears of life. Trayate Mahato Bhayat. All the fears of the life will be overcome by you. And Pratyavado na vidyate means that there is no reverse impact of this. There is no counter impact of this. Now we have to understand this little bit in deeper sense. You see, we do every daily routine activities with some expectations. You do, for example, talk to your son with an expectation that he will listen to you. He doesn't listen and you get somewhat irritated. You talk to your friends that he will come and help you. You have certain expectations. He doesn't give you that help and therefore you feel bad or irritated. So all these irritations, the bad things which are coming out of your expectations will immediately disappear. The fears will disappear. There would be no fear if you have no expectations. Whether I will win the war or not, Arjuna was very fearful that I will kill my own people, whether I will win the war, whether I lose the war. So he had that fear. So Arjuna has been told in this verse that if you get out of that consequence part, then you will have absolutely no fear. You will be able to overcome all the fears immediately. You are performing your duty as they are required to be done. And that's it, irrespective of the outcome which happens. So this is one very important part here. And if you are not able to do it fully, even in that case, there is no counter influence on you. Whatever limited, practice you do of this karma yoga, you will attain a vast amount of peace and you will attain what we call fearlessness in your life. So this is what Krishna is explaining here. But he's also saying one thing here, that कर्म योग में आरंभ का अर्थात बीज का नाश नहीं है. This is one point which we have to keep in mind. This is one of the reasons that we come back into this universe for taking birth and birth and birth again and again, because in बीज का नाश जब ही होगा जब you will become you are not a karta, you get out of the kartapan, then there would be no seed formed. But here he is saying that कि उसका अभी नाश नहीं है. He will expound this on the chapter 3 in great detail. So just keep that in mind and we will continue to discuss these issues later on. Then the verse number 41. हे अर्जुन, इस कर्म योग में निश्चयात्मक बुद्धि एक ही होती है, किंतु अस्थिर विचार वाले विवेकहीन सकाम मनुष्यों की बुद्धियां निश्चय के बिना बड़े बड़े भेदों वाली होती और अनंत होती. नाउ दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. व्यवसायत्मिका. Now व्यवसायत्मिका बुद्धि, that means that you have determined will, only one particular segment. For example, you decided that I want to follow the path of spirituality. I want to get united with the supreme power. Now that is a vyavsayatmika buddhi, determined buddhi. But every single day we have so many different buddhis. Just analyze, sit down quietly for a few minutes in the evening, and you will find that our buddhis are so many. Let me give you a few examples. We will think, okay, should I do my investment here? Should I do there? Should I do there? That is one thing where you will find, oh, I'll do this investment here, I'll lose, I'll do this here, I'll gain. We don't know what will happen here. So that is, you are all the time indeterminate. Then you say you want to deal with people in your office. Now, if I tell him this would be the reaction. How will he, react to my comments? What kind of punishment I should give to my subordinate for not doing his work? If I do this, how he will react? What impact he might have on my, own performance and my own peace of mind? Then you are dealing with your neighbor, and you say how my neighbor will react. So, we have so many uh, things every single day. Even a small issue like uh, what food should be prepared, there could be a long debate on that. Which restaurant should we go to eat? That could be subject of debate. Even in a restaurant, what menu should we order? And I have seen people fighting on that. And when the order is placed, then they fight. Oh, I had said you this was right, and you ordered this, and this is the consequence. So we have all these things going in our mind all the time, and that is what is called Bahushakha. That buddhi is Bahushakha buddhi. In Vyavasayatmika buddhi is one buddhi, that is, you are determined for one single mission in life. All the rest are subsidiary, they go along with it, and you are not bothered about them. But in Bahusakha, you have multiple, dimension of your intelligence, and those dimensions keep creating conflict in your mind constantly. I think this happens in practical terms to every one of us. And this is what he's saying, that if you can uh, get away from Bahusakha, then you will be able to have one determined intelligence which will direct your life correctly. And this is a very, very fundamental principle of management as well. In management, we always say that you decide your objective first, what is the principal objective, and then you work out the details, and everything else should be subordinate to that principal objective. This is what Krishna is saying here. So I think in life we need to decide vyavsayatmika buddhi, that is a must. So this is what he's saying in verse number 41. Then we go to verse number 42, 43 and 44. They go, actually they all the three go together. हे अर्जुन, जो भोगों में तन्मय हो रहे हैं, जो कर्म फल के प्रशंसक वेद वाक्यों में ही प्रीति रखते हैं, वेद वाक्यों में प्रीति रखते, ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, जिनकी बुद्धि में स्वर्ग के ही परम प्राप्य वस्तु है, और जो स्वर्ग से बढ़कर किसी कोई वस्तु नहीं है ऐसा मानते हैं, वे अविवेकी जन इस प्रकार की जिस पुष्पित अर्थात दिखाऊ शोभा युक्त वाणी को कहा करते हैं, जो कि जन्म रूप कर्म फल देने वाली एवं भोग अथवा ऐश्वर्य की प्राप्ति के लिए नाना प्रकार की बहुत सी क्रियाओं का वर्णन करने वाली है, उस वाणी द्वारा जिनका चित्त हर लिया गया है, जो भोग और ऐश्वर्य में अत्यंत आसक्त हैं, उन पुरुषों की परमात्मा में निश्चयात्मिका बुद्धि नहीं होती है. Now this is the explanation of nischayatmika buddhi, how to acquire that and what detracts you. Now he is saying in these verses, he is even criticizing Veds here. Essay, there are many people who use Vedas to justify certain एक्शंस। वेदों का जो पहला भाग है वो क्रिया कांड है। उसमें ये बताया गया है कि आपको पुत्र चाहिए तो ये करें, धन चाहिए तो ये करें, समृद्धि चाहिए तो ये करें, आपको श्रेय चाहिए तो ऐसा करें। तो उस भाग को कृष्ण कह रहे हैं कि there are people who extol that particular portion and try to believe that by using that they will be able to acquire peace and tranquility, which he says is not possible, because this is against vyavasayatmika buddhi. This is anek buddhi. This leads you to the word which he has used is uh, भोग, और भोग की जो इच्छाएं हैं, भोग और नाना प्रकार की आपकी जो इच्छाएं हैं उनको ये प्रमोट करती है। So we have to analyze that we should not get involved into the process of worldly rituals which are designed for acquiring more and more wealth or more and more what you call prestige or power. And even if these are uh, promoted by Vedas, in the Karma Kand of Veda, some of these are promoted. And he says this kind of, very flowery language people use and tell that this is prescribed by Vedas and this will give you this kind of results. This is not good. And this is against Nishchayatmika Buddhi. This is against determined intelligence of the individual. So in this, he is saying that let us get out of this multiple desires which we have in the world, multiple branches. For example, if you look at a tree, there are so many branches of a tree, hundreds, thousands of branches, their leaves. If you start nurturing each branch and each leaf and each fruit, then you cannot really nurture the tree. The tree's root are somewhere else, and we have to nurture the roots of the tree. And here he's mentioning that Nishchayatmaka Buddhi is the root of entire peace and tranquility of your mind. Then you can acquire equanimous mind. That is possible only when you have Nishchayatmaka Buddhi. And all these things are distracting that, determined single determination which you should have towards what you call spiritual thought, or towards understanding your own self or realizing oneself. So this is what he is trying to say here, that unless we are, able to do away with this distraction of variety of desires, whether they are promoted by Vedas or by any other rituals or by, people who claim to be very knowledgeable, if they are advising you to do variety of rituals and variety of desires and variety of activities in life that is not in the interest of determined goal which you should decide for self-realization, for unity with the Almighty. So this is very interesting here. This is a very practical, suggestion that don't get involved into multiple aspects of life. Have one single direction, and other things will be just subordinate to that, but follow that one single direction with Nishchayatmika Buddhi, and other things are not so important and they should not be given too much place in your daily life. Otherwise they will continue to disturb your peace, your tranquility, and your equanimity of your mind. So now we go to verse number 45. हे अर्जुन, वेद उपर्युक्त प्रकार से तीनों गुणों के कार्य रूप समस्त भोगों और उनके साधकों का प्रतिपादन करने वाले हैं। इसलिए तुम उन भोगों और उनके साधनों में आसक्तिहीन हर्ष शोकादि द्वंद्वों से रहित नित्य वस्तु परमात्मा में स्थित योग क्षेम को न चाहने वाला और स्वाधीन अंतःकरण वाला हो. Now this verse is again related to the previous three verses. Here he is concluding saying that even if the things are given in the Vedas for achieving this siddhi or that result or this result, don't get involved into that. They are not going to help you, and then don't have the desire of harsh and shock and twand, that is duality in life, that this is good, this is bad, this I like, this I don't like, and this is dark and this is light. So all these things are not needed for have to be avoided for tranquility of mind, and the only goal should be that I will establish myself with the Almighty, or I will realize my own self inside, or I will unite myself with the Almighty. That should be the only goal. Then you will become Swadhin Antakaran. This is very important word. Swadhin means nobody else is controlling you. Paradhin means many other things are controlling you. Now your friend is controlling you, your son is controlling you, your wife is controlling you, because everybody wants something from you. And if you don't do, they feel upset. And your neighbor is controlling you, your teacher is controlling you, your own desires are controlling you. So that person is paradhin. He is not able to take independent decisions. Independent decisions are possible when you are established in your own self and you are not controlled by these forces outside. Then you can take independent decisions. So that is what Swadhin means in Sanskrit, that you are adhin of your own self. Swa adhin, आपके ऊपर ही आपका सब कुछ निर्भर है. पर अधीन, पराधीन, that is दूसरों के ऊपर आप निर्भर हैं. So when you become paradhin, then you are dependent on others. And all the time in our life, we are dependent on others. And that is the root cause of our problems, because the others do not fulfill the expectations we have, and that causes distress, that causes disturbs our peace. And this is what Krishna is saying, that Swadhin Antakaran wala bano aap. You should be dependent on your own self, not on something outside. Now, the next verse is again actually touching the principle of Sankhya, but to some extent it is linked with Karma Yoga. Here he is linking it with Karma Yoga. It is not directly linked with Karma Yoga, but it is a basic principle of spirituality. सब ओर से परिपूर्ण जलाशय से प्राप्त हो जाने पर छोटे जलाशय में मनुष्य का जितना प्रयोजन होता है, ब्रह्म को तत्व से जानने वाला ब्राह्मण का समस्त वेदों में उतना ही प्रयोजन रह जाता है. Now he is talking about the Vedas here, that of course there is knowledge in Vedas. He is not denying that, but he is saying that if you acquire an ocean to yourself, then your interest in small little wells and ponds will diminish automatically. Similarly, if you acquire, for example, Brahmanand, the infinite bliss, then you will have no interest in small little pleasures here and there. The small pleasures we get out of eating good food or wearing good clothes or getting praise from somebody else or acquiring power for a while. Now those are the small, what you call pleasures of life. Those pleasures will not be needed if you are able to acquire the knowledge of the Almighty, the Brahmanand, the Brahma Tattva को अगर आप जान लेंगे. So if you can understand and acquire that bliss which is eternal, then you will have no interest in going into these small pleasures of life. The pleasures which he has described in the last 4 verses, and some of these pleasures are also prescribed by in the Vedas, and therefore he says that even in the Vedas your interest will be limited once you have acquired the fundamental knowledge of the Almighty. So he, in that sense, he is going beyond Vedas here. He is expounding on a thought that Vedas is only one part of, our what you call steps towards acquiring the ultimate knowledge, the knowledge of the truth. And therefore, your interest in the Vedas will completely disappear once you acquire the ocean of bliss, which is in the Brahmanand, which is in the by knowing the Almighty by its fundamental truth. So this is not directly related to Karma Yoga, but this is related to the basic truth of our existence. And then he again comes back on the Karma Yoga. This is very often quote verse, Karmanyavadi karaste ma phaleshu kadachan. तेरा कर्म करने में अधिकार है, उसके फलों में कभी नहीं, इसलिए तू कर्मों के फल का हेतु मत हो, तथा तेरी कर्मों में अनासक्ति भी नहीं हो, आसक्ति भी ना हो. नाउ तेरी कर्म न करने में आसक्ति भी नहीं हो. ये दिस इज द मीनिंग. इट्स a very profound verse here, that we have right to act, but we do not control the fruit of our acts. The fruit of our acts are dependent on the samasti. Take the example of Ukraine war. Russia invaded Ukraine thinking that within a few weeks they will surrender and things will settle down. But so many forces have come into play now. There are thousands and thousands of forces. Not only the NATO and the arms supply and the foreign fighters, but there are information warfare, there is a economic warfare, there are democracy versus autocracy issues, there are issues related to how to teach lesson to Putin, how to criminalize the whole process. So you see how many forces have come into play. Now, I don't think Putin would have thought of all this when he started the war. No. He thought that things would conclude within a few days. Similarly, what happened in Afghanistan? The Americans came and they thought they will be able to establish a control over Afghanistan and they will be able to set up a democratic setup there. They lived there for 20 years. They spent a lot of money, talked to various people, did whatever possible, and then finally they had to run away in a hurry. And in fact, some of their people were killed. Their arms and ammunition had to be dumped behind. What happened? So the result is not dependent on us. If that were true, if the results are dependent on us, then life will be a mathematics. Then I can say today I'm doing this and therefore I'll reap this particular harvest. But that is not possible. As we say that a farmer can only sow the seed. He can, खेत की जुताई कर लेगा, he can prepare the field and he can put the seed. But then the rains will come. When will they come? How much they will come? Snow will come, or winds, what kind of winds, whether sun will come, in what quantity the sun will come. All that multiple factors will decide the quality of the crop and the quantum of the crop. And then even if he gets good quality and good quantum, the market price will decide what he will get out of it. Maybe everybody is getting great crop and then the price crash and they don't get much out of it. So there are multiple factors which play their role in getting the results of your work. So he is saying that you don't concentrate on the outcome, you concentrate on the work you are required to do. Lekin at the same time is saying, of course, you should not concentrate on the fruits of the work, but you should not become distracted from the work. You should have full devotion to the work itself. कर्म न करने में आसक्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए, मतलब कर्म आपको करना है और पूरी लगन और मन से करना है. that is very important here. कर्म करना है और पूरी लगन से करना है, उसमें कोई कमी नहीं आनी चाहिए. But you have to leave aside the outcome. The outcome is not under your control. The outcome is somebody else's, not somebody, but in the hands of the entire existence. So he's saying here that you fight the war. The outcome of this war is not under your control, and many factors will play their role, and they will decide the outcome. So don't worry about that outcome. You do your duty. Your duty is to fight the war and fight it with full force. There you should not be lax. You should perform your duty with what you call utmost sincerity. So this is what this verse 47 tells us. Then we go to 48. हे धनंजय, तू आसक्ति को त्याग कर और सिद्धि और असिद्धि में समान बुद्धि वाला होकर योग में स्थित हुआ कर्तव्य कर्मों को कर. यही समत्व योग कहलाता है. Now he has come back to the same point which was raised by him in verse number 38. In 48, he is re-emphasizing that point, and in a very clear word. He said that you should not have asakti, that attachment to the outcome of the work. No attachment to the outcome of the work. And you should have samatva in buddhi, that is equanimous intelligence. Where whatever is the outcome, you should be not bothered by that. And this is what he says: do your kartavya, continue to do your duty fully. So this verse is actually this what you call summarization of the previous 6-7 verses in one verse here, that you don't get attachment with the outcome, have samatva buddhi, जय पराजय लाभ हानि जीत हार, इनमें don't get into that process, and then do your duty with fullest sincerity. Then he is saying you will be established in yoga. Samatva yoga uchyate, samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So he is saying that yoga, he is defining here that if you are equanimous, if you have no distinction between the outcome, whether it is good or bad, positive or negative, then you are established in yoga. And this is a definition of yoga by Karma Yoga by Krishna. This is very different from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is very different from this, but this is a very practical definition given to the daily, activities of human being by Lord Krishna. So I think this is something which we have to meditate over, that 4 things here. No attachment to anything. No distinction between positive or negative outcome. Thirdly, discharge your function with sincerity. All kartavya sincerity se karo. And fourthly, then once you do all this, you will be established in yoga. You will be yukt. Yukt means you are, joined with the supreme force. And that yukt, state of yukt will arise once you perform these three things. So I think this is very, very important verse. This tells us the summary of previous 7, 8 verses. Now next verse is, इस समत्व रूप बुद्धि योग से सकाम कर्म अत्यंत ही निम्न श्रेणी का है। इसलिए धनंजय, तू सम बुद्धि में ही रक्षा का उपाय ढूंढ, अर्थात बुद्धि योग का ही आश्रय ग्रहण कर, क्योंकि फल के हेतु बनने वाले अत्यंत दीन होते हैं। It is further explanation that those who are doing their duties with expectation of results, with expectation of outcome, expectation of fruits, they are deen, they worth, you should pity them, because they are not attaining swadhinta, they are not attaining peace, they are not able to attain that yoga which he is talking about. You can attain swadhinta and you can attain total peace only when you are yukt. And if the person is attached with the outcome of his activities, then he cannot attain that, and he will be tied to multiple branches, he will be tied to multiple forces acting in the world, and those forces will keep controlling his peace, his anger, his disappointment, his satisfaction. Everything will be controlled by those outside forces. So sakam buddhi wale kripan, the word he has used here, they are kripana, वो बड़े दीन हैं, उनको जो है उनके ऊपर दया करनी चाहिए, वो अच्छा नहीं है. This is not something good. So he is emphasizing that become samatva buddhi yoga is the crux here. In this karma yoga, he is emphasizing the karma yoga with samatva buddhi. That is very, very important. And sakam karm जो हैं वो तो बड़े निम्न श्रेणी के माने गए हैं. That is what he said here. The verse number 450. समबुद्धि युक्त पुरुष पुण्य और पाप दोनों को इसी लोक में त्याग देता है, अर्थात उनसे मुक्त हो जाता है. इससे तू समत्व बुद्धि योग में लग जा. इस समत्व रूप योग को ही कर्मों की कुशलता कहा गया है. योग कर्मसु कौशलम. Now this samatva buddhi yoga, which he has been expounding, he is saying that this is the, what you call, crux of all the duties. This is the pinnacle of all the duties. Once you are able to reach that you are not impacted by the outcome, that you are not impacted by the forces outside, then you attain the supreme force of the real karma, the pinnacles of the karma. So this is what, and then you are not tied to the outcome of them also. That means you are not linked to the rebirth in that case, because the seed will be destroyed. The karma, which is sakam karma, it brings a seed. Niskam karma does not bring a seed, and therefore you will be able to get rid of the karma bandhan, that is the outcome of the karmas you are doing. You will get out of that process, and that will ultimately give you complete liberation. That is what he is saying here. So the whole emphasis in these verses is that do your duty with sincerity, but have no expectations. Don't distinguish between positive and negative aspects of it. The outcomes are decided by the samasti, by the universal forces, and once you are able to attain that, then you are established in yoga. You are yukt. and you will not be impacted. Your peace, your tranquility will not be impacted by outside forces. Now, verse number 51. क्योंकि समत्व बुद्धि के युक्त ज्ञानी जन कर्मों से उत्पन्न होने वाले फल का त्याग कर जन्म रूप बंधन से मुक्त हो निर्विकार परम पद को प्राप्त हो जाते हैं. Now he is very clearly saying here that if you are able to establish yourself in samatva buddhi, then you are entitled to go and establish yourself in Parampad. Now, what is Parampad? Parampad is not a seat which is outside in the outer, universe, or this is some place in the universe where you go and sit down and you sit on Parampad. That is not. This word Parampad has also been used in subsequent verses. You will find it later on. But Parampad is basically your own, what you call liberation from outside forces. Once you are able to liberate yourself from the influence of outside forces, whether they are forces of nature, whether they are forces of the humanity outside, or whether they are forces of other living beings outside, they will not be able to impact you at all. And then natural outcome would be that you will get out of the cycle of birth and rebirth. So this is what he's saying here, that you will get out of the cycle of birth and rebirth once you are able to establish yourself in yoga, and that is karma yoga, which he has defined in the previous verses as we discussed. Now, we will take up to verse number, two more verses, up to 53. जिस काल में बुद्धि मोह रूप दलदल से भली भांति पार कर जाएगी, उस समय तू सुने हुए और सुनने में आने वाले इस लोक और परलोक संबंधी सभी भोगों से वैराग्य को प्राप्त हो जाएगा. नेक्स्ट वर्स. भांति भांति के वचनों को सुनने से विचलित हुई तेरी बुद्धि जब परमात्मा में अचल और स्थिर ठहर जाएगी, तब तू योग को प्राप्त होगा और तेरा परमात्मा से नित्य संयोग हो जाएगा. Now, here he is concluding this, what you call, the Samatva Buddhi Yoga, Samatva Buddhi Karma Yoga. He is concluding it here, saying that Moharup Daldal. Now, Moharup Daldal is very important. Moha Kalilam. It's called Yadate Moha Kalilam. Moha Kalilam जो है, because we are attached to multiple forces. People are attached to their car, they are attached to their house, they are attached to their spouse, they are attached to their brothers and sisters, they are attached to sons and daughters, they are attached to their neighbors. Now, attachment with expectations is basically making you dependent on others. This is what has been explained, and that is the moha. Moharup Daldal. It does not mean that you become indifferent to people. This is a very important distinction we must understand. A person who is established in himself, a person who is established with the Almighty, for him actually he will be concerned for everybody. He is not concerned only for a few. He will be concerned, his emotions, his feelings, his bhav will come out to help everyone. So that is what we call prem. The real love is that which is completely niswarth, which does not have the attached outcome here. So this is what he's saying here, that moharoop daldal. हम moharoop daldal में फंसे हुए हैं because we are attached to so many things, and that attachment creates all kinds of vibrations in your mind, those vibrations destabilize your peace, and all the time either you are angry or you are disappointed or you are unhappy or you are happy. So all those things are taking place because of this moha roop daldal. So I think this is very important. It is the same thing by linking to various forces outside, and those forces are giving you the pleasure of life. For example, let me take an example. When I was a child, I lived in a village. There were not many facilities. There was no electricity. There was no water supply at home. We used to bring water from a well. And we used to use a lantern for, doing anything in the evening. Then there were no transport means except bicycle. We used to have all that. And still we were happy. There was no problem as such. The food was available to eat, and people had good relations. Today in the same place, I just went there last week. uh, Everything is available. People have the best cars available in the world. They have all other transport, vehicles, two-wheelers and three-wheelers and big cars. They have refrigerators. They have television sets. They have, of course, water supply at home. They have electricity. There are banks. There are mobile phones with everybody. Despite that, they are not happy because वो मोहरूप दलदल में, they are trying to get happiness from mobile phone or happiness from TV screen or happiness from refrigerator or happiness from the car. The happiness does not come from there. The happiness which comes from there is transient. It is just for a few minutes or few days or few months, not beyond that. And that is why this is called मोहरूप दलदल. ये दलदल है, इसमें आप फंसते रहोगे. थोड़ा लाभ मिलेगा, then again you go down, then again you come up, then again you go down. So these ups and downs will continue all the time. So this is what happens. In fact, the societies like American and European societies, where you have all the amenities of the life, they are much more disturbed people than the poor man of India. Because the poor man of India has no great expectations. He's happy where what he is. But those people have acquired everything in life. They have gone to the best restaurants to eat. They have used the best clothes, and they have the best cars, and they have luxury houses, and they have traveled around the world, and they have done everything you can imagine. Still they are unhappy because they are in the moharoop daldal. They are thinking कि वहां से उनको सुख मिलेगा, but वो सुख ट्रांसिएंट मिलता है थोड़ी देर के लिए, फिर खत्म हो जाता है, फिर वापस दुख बन जाता है. So this is the process which continues if you remain attached with all these things. So Krishna is saying that let us get out of this, and we should get linked to the Almighty. Then you will be able to get vairagya from the bhog. Once you are attached to the Almighty, all these things will automatically drop out, and you will not remain attached to these, small little comforts of life which the world provides you. So this is what he's saying. This is also, he gave the previous example ki, once you get a vast ocean of water, then you are not bothered about small ponds here and there. So these are moharupi daldal, these are small ponds, and you will get out of it once you attach yourself to the vast ocean of the Almighty, the eternal bliss. And then in this last 53rd verse, he says that, you have been listening to variety of ideas, views from different people, and therefore your mind is in a state of conflict, which we all have. We listen to various viewpoints in life. Somebody tells you do this, somebody tells you do that, somebody says this is good, next person says this is bad. So all these things keep changing, and then you keep what you call fluctuating in your mind. You have kim kartavya vimurta all the time. Whether I should do this, not do this, how do I do it, in what manner I should do it. All this keep, your intelligence keep, fluctuating all the time. So अगर परमात्मा में अगर आप अपने आप को एस्टैब्लिश कर लेते हैं, तो दैट इंटेलिजेंस विल बिकम अचल, फिर वो स्थिर हो जाएगी. स्थिर होकर के ठहर जाएगी और आप युक्त हो जाएंगे, आप योग को प्राप्त हो जाएंगे. सो द इंटेलिजेंस, स्थिर, अचल एंड स्थिर इंटेलिजेंस and yog, they go together, because as long as the buddhi is not sthir, you cannot attain yog, you cannot have yukt, you cannot attain the state of yuktness with the Almighty. So this is what he is saying here. And once you are able to do this, then you are one with the Almighty. Then we can say that Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, whatever we call it, then that state can be attained. So I think here Krishna actually integrates Karma Yoga with Samatva Buddhi and also with the principles of Sankhya. So this is an integrated, holistic approach which Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna in the context of his daily routine, in the context of his day-to-day activities, so that he is not in the what you call very high plane of Sankhya, but he comes down to the plane where we act and where we work on practical basis. So I would stop here. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those. And then we will do our meditation. Thank you.